Okay, so I hope we can start now. And okay, first of all, a warm welcome and good afternoon from the United Kingdom, and a good day from wherever you are joining. So this is the first workshop of the Commonwealth Association of Planners, um, organized by the Young Planners Network. So for everyone who is in the lobby, I just wanted to mention first that this session is being recorded, and the recording will be available in the Commonwealth Association of Planners Young Planners Network website, uh, as a series of workshops. So today's workshop is on knowledge sharing workshop, building strong cities, best practices and toolkits for planning urban resilience. And today's session is organized by the Commonwealth Association of Planners, Young Planners Network. I am Malit Seniviratna, a co-chair of the research committee of the Commonwealth Association of Planners, Young Planners Network. So this online workshop is part of the series of capacity building workshops, and which will be linked to the Cities by Citizens program organized by the Commonwealth Association of Planners, Young Planners Network. The series of capacity building workshops aim to provide young planners in the Commonwealth with career development opportunities, the guidance, and including training in communications about public relations, knowledge sharing, and also other relevant skills. So this workshop focus on knowledge sharing component of the program and will offer a continuous professional development program for CAP members. So by bringing together experts in the field of urban planning, the workshop seeks to provide participants with best practices and toolkits for planning urban resilience, enhancing their ability to cope with the impacts of climate change and rapid urbanization. So, right, so we have a few more members in the lobby, right? So, uh, a little bit about the background of today's session. So we all know that cities continue to face the impacts of climate change and rapid urbanization. The need for urban resilience has become increasingly urgent, and also urbanization has brought about a host of challenges for cities, including congestion, pollution, and housing, especially. Furthermore, natural disasters and extreme weather events pose significant risk to cities and their inhabitants. The concentration of people, infrastructure, amplifies the impacts of these events, leading to significant economic, social, and environmental losses. So, as planners or the professionals working in the planning background, to address these challenges, building urban resilience has become a priority, requiring a collaborative and interdisciplinary approach from government agencies, civil organizations, private sector actors. It also demands the use of novel planning methods and concepts and creative approaches to urban planning and design. In this context, peer learning is essential for young planners in the Commonwealth to learn about best practices and toolkits that can be used to build strong cities. The proposed knowledge sharing workshop, which we are launching today as part of the Cities by Citizens program organized by the Commonwealth Association of Planners, Young Planners Network, aims to bring together experts in the practitioners to share their knowledge and experiences for building urban resilience. Through peer learning, the workshop will provide participants with the opportunity to exchange ideas, learn new concepts, and develop solutions to urban challenges in the Commonwealth regions. So with this aim of the program, we aim to achieve to enhance the capacity of young planners in the Commonwealth regions to plan and design resilient urban infrastructure and services by providing them with access to the latest tools, methodologies, and best practices to promote peer learning and collaboration among planners, government officials, and other stakeholders in the Commonwealth regions by providing platform for sharing knowledge and experiences related to urban resilience planning and design, and also to contribute to the broader goal of building urban resilience in the Commonwealth regions by raising awareness about the importance of planning for resilience and equipping planners, other stakeholders with the necessary skills, knowledge to do effectively. And also here with us today, we have Olafin Taiwo, who is the coordinator from Commonwealth Association of Planners to the Young Planners Network. So I warmly welcome Olafin to give a brief about CAP YPN and the activities that we are working on. Olafin, nice to have you here with us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Malit. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today and to actually have the first pre-series of our Cities by Citizens program. My name is Olafin Taiwo, and I'm the chair for the Young Planners Network for the Commonwealth Association of Planners. And the Commonwealth Association of Planners represents over 40,000 planners from across the Commonwealth, and the Young Planners represent the young planners of this variation, and also wider because we also include planning students from across the Commonwealth. Our main aim at the moment is to improve the capacity of planners across the Commonwealth, as well as to ensure that we have a platform for knowledge sharing and exchange of information, and also to create a platform for networking and a platform where young planners can come together and create that tangible change within our cities and communities. And so I'm delighted that we're having this first session. I'm sure towards the end, we'll also be talking about the formal launch of the Cities by Citizens program, as well as the other programs that we have launched to be able to celebrate young planners. Young planners are actually doing a lot. We are delivering practical projects across the continent and across the Commonwealth as a whole. And so it's really a pleasure to welcome everyone and to start this series in terms of listening to how other countries and some other cities have been practicing resilience, have been imbibing resilience into their plans, and what are the planning practices, what are the best practices across the planning profession that we can learn and also imbibe across our own the different spatial scales where we have come from. And the aim at the end of this session of series we'll be having on urban resilience is to be able to create a toolkit and some practice notes on the different practices from the Commonwealth, from planning across the Commonwealth on building urban resilience, and also what are the lessons learned, what are the opportunities, and what are the areas for growth within the planning systems, and also areas to upskill young planners and opportunities for young planners, not just within the public sector, but also within the private sector, as well as the civil society and international institutions. So it's my pleasure to really welcome us to this first series, and I look forward to hearing more from our different speakers, and look forward to the welcome as well from the immediate past president of the Sri Lankan Institute of Planners, Indu. So I look forward to hearing more as well. Thank you. Over to you, Malit.
Thank you very much, Olafin. Thank you for that thoughtful insights that you have raised. So along with that, I would like to go take you through the format of today's program. So we will go through a brief introduction for the speakers, and then our speakers, distinguished panelists, will position their speech, especially to share their knowledge, their experience, and then about how we can improve the existing planning platforms. And then we will have interactive session with our speakers, as well as those who have joined today's program, as in a question and answering session. And then also especially focusing the call to action to encourage the collaboration and knowledge sharing among stakeholders, especially with who are present here today, and as well as those who will be benefited upon viewing this recording in online. And also call to action, especially encouraging the adoption of innovative and creative approaches to urban planning and designing, and also advocating for investment in resilient infrastructure and services. So with the Commonwealth Association of Planners, especially the Young Planners Network, coupled with the Commonwealth other organizations, we are launching several capacity building programs. So this is one of its initiatives which will ultimately be benefited to other linked programs as well. Okay, so without further ado, let me introduce our distinguished panelists today. So we are very pleased and honored to have all of you with us as our distinguished speakers. So um, yes. So firstly, let me have the honor and privilege to introduce you all to Planner Indu Veerasuri. So Planner Indu Veerasuri is a chartered town planner and a fellow member of the Institute of Town Planners Sri Lanka. And she was the past president of the Institute of Town Planners Sri Lanka and the chairman of the Board of Education. She is the current vice president of Southwest Asia of the Commonwealth Association of Planners. And also she is expert in the field of urban development, specialized in urban regional planning, urban governance, local government, resettlement. And also during her extensive national career, she has held many ranked key positions in the field of urban development. The latest being the Deputy Director General of the Urban Development Authority of Sri Lanka. And then she joined the United Nations Human Settlement Program as a project manager in urban and disaster risk reduction. And also she has held several positions, memberships in several committees of universities, and also she is a visiting lecturer for national universities and as well as in international universities. And she has a master's in urban development planning from the University of London and a postgraduate diploma in heritage management and urban revitalization from IHS in Netherlands. And also her career extends into so many disciplines in urban planning, and we are very honored to have you, madam, with us to listen to you and then learn from you. And also we have Naila Etching. I'm presuming I'm pronouncing it right. I'm sorry. So Naila is an urban and regional planner who works with the Geodev Kenya Limited as a senior urban and regional planner. In addition to being a senior planner, he's also currently serves as a resilience officer in the project on the preparation of urban resilience strategies in 5 cities in Kenya, and also he's the founder and the managing director of Spatial Nexus and Links Limited. He's a graduate member of Town and Country Planner Association of Kenya. And also he's holding many awards that we are happy to share with all of you. The Kenya Institute of Planners Best Masters Student in the Development of Urban and Regional Planning for the academic year 2020 and 2021. And also University of Nairobi Masters Scholarship in the Development of Urban and Planning for the academic year 2018-2019. So there are several other interesting awards that we love to have you here with us. And also his bachelor's degree is in urban and regional planning, a master's degree in urban and regional planning also, and also he's pursuing his PhD in urban and regional planning from the University of Nairobi. So uh, Naila, we are very pleased to have you here with us today, and we cannot wait to hear your interesting thoughts in our discussion. And also we have Camille Rock from United Kingdom. So Camille is a town planner working on infrastructure projects with the engineering consultancy of Atkins, with prior experience developing a green infrastructure strategy for the Birmingham City Council. And he focuses on integrating nature-based solutions, which is kind of really a trending and really need discipline in current urban planning practices to bring into solutions into the consenting process by connecting the planning, ecology, and natural capital teams. So Camille, thank you so much for joining, and thank you for your time for the session today. And also we have a young planner from Sri Lanka, Shahan Atma, the chairman of Young Planners Forum Sri Lanka, attached to the Institute of Town Planners Sri Lanka. And also Sahan is the Minister of Finance and Infrastructure Development at the National Youth Parliament of Sri Lanka, a young entrepreneur with a demonstrated history of working in the urban planning industry. And also he's an urban planning executive at John Case Properties, skilled in urban planning, corporate research, comparing, leadership training, project management, and public speaking. Strong urban management professional, and he's graduated from University of Murto. So Shahan, very pleased to have you with us today. So with that introduction, let us start our discussion today about the first workshop of the YPN Capacity Building Workshop series. So title is Knowledge Sharing Workshop, Building Strong Cities. So this strong cities is to be able to cope up with the ongoing pressure of urbanization as well as the hazards that we face today. Let me move on to plan in the Virasuri. So we have like a very diverse range of experiences, starting from a very senior personnel to a young planner, and then very experts in technical aspects as well. So we aim to bring all your thoughts together and then develop call to actions series, the documents that we are going to produce at the end of this workshop series. So sharing experiences uh, about your work. Pan into Virasuri. You have experience in urban development and planning from national to local level, and also you have worked in many of the private sector associations as well. So could you please share some of your experiences? What you can share looking at this national level to the community level? What are the challenges that we face in downstreaming the national policies into community level? Let's start our discussion there and then identify the challenges where we can bridge these things. You're muted, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes. Now we hear.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Very good evening, very good afternoon, and some of the colleagues, very good morning. Thank you, Malik. Thank you very much for your generous introduction about me. First of all, allow me to congratulate HAP Young Planners Network selecting this timely topic and inviting me as a panelist with very learned and other colleagues. Yeah, as you said, with very young planners. And the building resilient cities focus is a long felt need for all actors, not only planning community, development partners, actors, UN agencies, and the civil society, government agencies, and especially decision makers. That is the first message I want to give you. This is not only the subject of one sector. That is why we want to say, and with my experience starting from up to now, is still 2 or 3 decades, what I see is this one not only an issue for a one party or a one organization. Then having said that, because as your instruction, I would like to share with you my experience. I would like to share especially the first urban development and building resilience. I would say, as you said, I am fortunate enough to work in public sector, UN sector, especially the private sector. But with the 3 sectors, I work as an urban planner. I'm really, really fortunate enough. Within my tenure, I had enough opportunities to work in different capacities. As you explained, and the policy level, formulating policies, program level, field to implement some action project. Therefore, when you think about to become a professional planner, or to use your experience and my experiences, you have to work in the office as well as the field. You have to familiar with the field as urban planner. And the last couple of years, as you all are well aware, and as a country, Sri Lanka, we prepare a housing policy for Sri Lanka, climate change policy, national physical planning policy, so many policies. I had an opportunity to be a member of that committee. Therefore, I'm very happy to say, when we are talking about the urban resilience, to have the strong cities, we have to start from policies. If you do not have the clear, strong policies, and your destination is dark. Therefore, you need the formulations policy. You have to start in the first initiative is formulating a policy for a urban policy, sometimes climate change policy, integrated policy. We can't prepare a standalone plan. Always we have to think about the integrated plan, considering all the 4 sectors: physical, social, environment, and economic. Even program level, because I have enough experience, you can't. And the other thing is, according to my experience, if you keep the policy as it is without translating into strategies and action, formulation policy is not perfect. After formulating policy, you have to convert them or translate into strategies and action. As I explained, and that in this 3 level, I had to work with UN agencies, private sector, civil society, different able people, even school children. Cross-section of the society, getting experience, working with diverse society is amazing. That is the beauty of the urban planners. Because the urban planners are not limited to the office. You have to work with all kind of people. That is the other message I want to give you. And working with the stakeholders, different stakeholders, you can understand their mandatory powers, their aspiration, their need, especially their roles and responsibilities. Knowing their aspiration and need, knowing their mandatory powers, we can work as a team. Planning, building a strong cities, you can't do without having a team spirit. That is the other message I already collected, acquired from working in the different type of organization. Actually, I started my journey as a planner in the prime planning agency in Sri Lanka, named Urban Development Authority. I joined to the authority as a planning officer, just like you, in my young age. But I climbed up to the position of Deputy Director General Planning in the same authority, collecting, acquiring all kind of knowledge, not only planning, administration, management, professional ethics, how to work with the other partners, especially the development partners. This acquiring the sound knowledge about the other aspects also very, very important. Because now our audience are young planners. Just I'm telling you, asking you, go an extra mile. Within that extra mile, you can find so many, you can collect, acquire so many experience working with the other sectors. All the other things, I engage in all the steps of the project cycle, as well as the planning process, not limiting onto the one part. Planning, especially the preparation, then the implementation, enforcement, and the monitoring and evaluation. And you have to familiar with the steps in the planning process as well as the project cycle. Then that is very, very comfortable. If you know the all kind of steps and the planning process. Normally, because if you are in the urban planners environment, it's not smooth, it's always not bright. Working with the different type of stakeholders is not easy because you have to work with the political authority and the normal people and the citizen, senior citizen, young people. While you are working, then you have to listen them. You have to be a good listener. Urban planner should be a good listener. To collect the experiences from the senior people, work with the young people, that is an immense chance for you. After Urban Development Authority, I joined with the United Nations Human Settlement Program, UN Habitat. Actually, my first task was the preparation of the disaster resilient cities in Sri Lanka. I'm very proudly, I want to tell you, and we have selected so many cities in Sri Lanka. These cities are vulnerable. Some are coastal cities. Some are located in the hill country. There, we work with universities, especially the University of Moratuwa. That's the place where we can get a lot of urban planners and the different type of experts, different type, especially the field, quantity surveys, architects, urban planners. Yeah. Then the local authorities. Local authority is the agency which is responsible for economic planning and development plan. When we are doing the planning, don't think grassroots level, this agency, they can't perform their duties. We have to assist them. In which way? And you have to provide in technical assistance, know-how, sharing your experience. Working with local authority is another art. As you are well aware, local authorities, they do not have enough resources just like other agencies. And they have the limited standing committee and the portfolio. Whatever they do, they have to work according to their standing committee and according to their audiences and act. Therefore, when you are working with the local authority, and we have to give all kind of technical assistance for them. That's the other message I want to give through my experience. And when we are talking about the UNS, private sector, and the private sector, as you are well aware, not like a UN sector, not like public sector. Using this both experience, is still working with private sector. And the private sector, as you are well aware, they are profit-oriented and they have the target to fulfill and according to their calendars and according to their corporate plan. And here also, as urban planner, you have enough space to perform. And you are the person who can build, who can create that innovative platform. I think, Malik, I don't know the time limit.
Yes,
second round,
yes, ma'am. So you have shared lots of experience about you involved in the Sri Lankan planning process and where it started from policies, strategies to action level. So now Let me move on to Naila, who is again a urban and regional planner from Nigeria. So we heard some of the special approaches in Sri Lankan context, especially the coastal cities to the hill countryside. So if you can give some of your experiences from Nigeria, from Kenya, being urban and regional planner, and also effectively engage in utilizing technology in spatial planning, in building resilience, and also about also building entrepreneurial ventures where plan in the stopped about the private sector. So how we can incorporate this, because policy as planned in the very curricular policy formulation is the key uh, for proper progress in urban planning. But to formulate the proper policy, we need to understand what is the baseline, what is the basis for formulating these policies. So from your experience in Kenya, how have you contributed to the policy formulation in Kenya with your engagement in the technological aspects, and as well as the entrepreneurial ventures related to urban planning? Yes, Naila.
Thank you very much, Alep, for the opportunity to share knowledge with young planners. I hope I'm audible. Can you confirm?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, as you've said, my name is Naila Boniface Achieng, and I am a planner, urban and regional planner by profession. I'm also specializing in spatial modeling and strategy development to support land use frameworks. And I work with GeoDev Kenya as a senior urban and regional planner. And I would share my experience briefly because I can see based on the agenda and the time schedule, we are running short of time, but I will try to be as brief as possible. My experience spans from preparation of regional plans, urban plans, and local plans. In Kenya, that is the that is the legal framework of how plans are being prepared. And I started my career in Europe with SOM, Skidmore, Owings and Merrill in London. And that is the first place I ever practiced planning. And we were doing an urban plan for a mixed development city, kind of in Kenya. And it is interesting how planning varies from one country to another. And from there, most of the work were mostly related to urban design. There's a lot of detail, but trying to link people and spaces. And then the second place where I worked, I've majorly worked in the private sector. I've not worked with government. But I went to an institution in Kenya, a private firm called Kent Bill Engineers and Planners. And there I did a lot of things, including event planning, Town Planners Association of Kenya. That was the second place I gathered experience, where mostly we were convening seminars and trying to build capacity on town and country planning. And there we did a bit of local plans, which are made related to extension of user and change of giving or guiding developers on getting development application, mostly advisory planning. And then I moved on to GeoDev Kenya Limited, where I've been for the past 5.5 years. And there my experience has been on preparing city-wide plans and town plans and market area plans, and also regional plans, which are at county level. And in summary about the experience of planning in Kenya, it is a complex process, which is political. At the same time, it requires you to try and and mediate between political interest and the social welfare and the people interest. And you can imagine how that is. So a planner comes in to mediate all these expectations so that when you achieve the objective of transformation, when plans are being implemented. Lately, from 2021, my experience jumped into another field, which is, I would call it new, but I know the debate started a long time ago, urban resilience. So Kenya started a program under the World Bank to support 5 cities in Kenya. That is Nairobi, which is the capital city, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, and Eldoret to prepare urban resilience strategies. And this is where I first started interacting with this concept of resilience. And it was more of a unique exercise, which I'm sharing this experience with the planners, the young planners, and even the senior who are here, that there is a little bit of difference in conceiving what is resilience and what is planning, the traditional planning, which is mostly land use and then physical and then support strategy. But resilience now brings in a new dimension, which in the next, I think there will be a next session to talk about experiences about urban resilience. But right now, I would say my experience is in both urban resilience because I have an experience of what happens in the strategies. So what do you do in developing strategies which are resilience-based in supporting cities? I would take it, I would leave it at that for now and wait for the next session. Thank you.
I think Malik, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Naila. Thank you, Sam. Naila, thank you so much for sharing your experience about your engagement in building resilience and also to raising the point conceiving resilience, where we need to understand the risk and what leads to the formulation of policies and then ultimately how policies can be converted into a resilience action plan. So that's where we have to head now. And now from Camille. Can I hear from you about your engagement, especially as a professional in infrastructure projects in United Kingdom? So especially this movement towards green infrastructure strategies. How important is that for building resilience? And also there's a really interesting field, the nature-based solutions. So this is really trending, and where we have to learn from nature and try to imitate that into our urban projects, because whatever happens in the environment, what we see is environment survives. So that is the mechanism that we should implant in our infrastructure projects. So even in my research, nature-inspired solutions are really something that I'm trying to cater in my research as well. So what is the difference in this nature-inspired, nature-based? So do we have to go with one for forgetting that, or we need to go in a combined approach for nature-inspired and nature-based? So what is your approach on that? What is your experience, if you can share, Camille? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I think that's a really good introduction, is that terming of the fact that nature has been resilient and has adapted for millions of years. It's been doing it for far longer than we have. And society's tended towards urbanization this whole time. And we've gone, oh, wait a minute, we're straying further and further from what is natural and what is adapted to our natural environment. And so we've strayed from that. And it's about getting back to it is what nature-inspired development is, working with the natural landscape and natural systems as well. Where I'll start is in the key definitions, I think, and green infrastructure first. Green infrastructure is the idea of using natural elements to provide functional aspects. So, for example, in the UK, one of our greatest resilience issues or our sort of natural disasters is flooding. And so sustainable urban drainage systems have become really popular in the UK. And that's something that is typically seen in green infrastructure plans and strategies that are set by councils. And so what you're asking here around, what is the role of consultancy and development or developers in providing green infrastructure strategies? The strategy is set by local government in the UK, so they'll have a plan for how they want green infrastructure to develop across their city, across their town, and then it is up to developers to come in and fill in that space. As they build in a housing project, they'll deliver the green infrastructure that's set by the local authority or by the local government. And so that's something that's really coming into the UK now through a new system called Nature Recovery Networks. And essentially what happens is the local authority, so for example, the city council will, or even a wider spatial scale, regional scale, there will be a nature recovery network set, which says, this is our ambition to restore nature along certain corridors in certain patches, and it'll identify existing green infrastructure. So, where you've got areas like parks, where you've got areas like woodlands, rivers, streams, and the wetlands around them. And then it will say, in order to restore nature, we need to add this as development comes in. So as there's a greenfield development, we need to, create a linear corridor of trees or create a new wetland habitat to prevent flooding. And so the system that we have in the UK is that developers will then come in and provide that on behalf of the local government, but the ambition is set by local government. And that's a system that I've been working with previously, and firstly in Birmingham City Council, so from the local authorities perspective, and then secondly now Atkins as a developer trying to make these things happen in practical projects.
Right, great. So you mentioned about the nature recovery network. So how you adapting that? Bit of experience. How you differentiate an infrastructure project from green infrastructure project? What is your experience of these elements that you have talked about the green? If you can take 1 or 2 minutes to explain about that.
Of course. Yeah, there is no difference. I think green infrastructure becomes part of infrastructure is the important part, really. And so, for example, if you're talking from the mind of a developer, your money is coming in infrastructure to build roads, to build schools, to build police stations. Nobody gets paid or nobody makes money just planting trees. It's not like its own project. And so, for example, when Atkins build a highway, we have an opportunity to create a long linear corridor of grassland or meadow or even woodland along that stretch of land that we're using for highway. But essentially, the green infrastructure comes as an added benefit of development and almost offsets the negative impacts or tries to provide an added benefit in addition to the infrastructure we're providing. And the important sort of take that we have, or the important angle when we view infrastructure projects, is we are using public funds essentially, to build schools, to build roads. And so our ultimate aim is not to make a profit like you would in housing or commercial development, but the ultimate aim is to use public funds to provide a public good. And so that public good can extend beyond just building a road. Actually, what are the environmental benefits of having these trees in terms of air pollution reduction, or having these wetlands along a road that can then, store water, provide flood alleviation. And so when it comes to developing an infrastructure project, we consider green infrastructure as part of that. That's how it works.
Yes, thank you, Kamil. Thank you so much for that explanation. And then that gives a really good inspiration to Sahan, because public funds for public good. So you being a young planner, Sahan, can I listen to you about what is your role in the youth parliament? How we are going to raise these public necessities, public needs in the youth parliament? Ultimately, it will be a voice to the entire governance system. So let me hear from you, Sahan, about your involvement in this urban planning, especially as a youth parliamentarian member, and also in the real estate development. Yes, over to you, Sahan.
All right. Hope I'm audible. And
yes.
Yeah, all right. First of all, thank you very much, the Commonwealth Association of Planners, Young Planners Network, for inviting me to this amazing workshop. And it's a great honor, and it's a great pleasure to address this workshop. Thank you very much, Malit, for the invitation. Yes, so it's been a very informative session so far. So I'll try my level best to keep up the momentum, keep up the rhythm. So first of all, let me talk about the theme of today's session. I mean, talking about building resilient cities is absolutely critical at this moment, especially in the phase where we are as a universe. So I think we talk about climate change, we talk about reducing disaster risks, we talk about maintaining socio-economic stability. Specifically, as a Sri Lankan, we are going through one of the worst economic crises that we've ever been through. And we always talk about promoting health and well-being. We talk about ensuring resource efficiency. So when it comes to urban resilience, I think it's really important to address these issues by adapting to climate change, by adapting to reducing disaster risks, by adapting to maintaining socio-economic stability. So I think as youngsters, so I'll come back to the original question, what is my role as a youth parliament member in order to cater these requirements? So I believe as youngsters, specifically as future leaders, and most importantly, future inhabitants of our cities, we do have a very important responsibility to ensure urban resilience in our cities. So coming back to the original question, so he talked about public funds, how we allocate resources, for the well-being of our country. So mainly as a youngster, what I understand is in most of the countries, the opportunities to involve in policy-making procedures, the opportunities to involve in the decision-making procedures of a country, politically, economically, youngsters do not have a lot of opportunities. We do not have a lot of chances to actively involve in the decision-making procedures. Yes, we work in corporates, we work in institutions, we contribute as professionals. But what I understood is the young generation need more opportunities to actively involve in the policy-making procedures, to actively involve in the real ground policy-making procedures. So as a youth parliament currently, what we are proposing is to give real opportunities to youngsters to actively involve in the political decision-making of the country. Also, at the same time, give us the opportunity to involve in the budget preparation procedure of the country, give us the opportunity to be involved in the development plan preparation procedure of the country. Yes, we have specific institutions to address those issues, but in most of the institutions, the senior urban planners, senior professionals are handling these mechanisms. So specifically as the Youth Parliament of Sri Lanka, our request is to give youngsters more opportunities to address these issues at a higher level, in a level where we can truly create an impact rather than just giving our opinions. So specifically when it comes to my professional practice, Malid, I'm currently working as an urban planner in a real estate company. So mainly so what I understand is, so we have urban planning at one end, we have the corporate targets at one end. So I understand my role as a person who's bridging the gap between urban planning principles and the practical implementations of real estate development projects. So real estate development companies have their own targets, they have their own profit-oriented targets. So what I understand is it is my responsibility to understand the importance of balancing economic viability, community needs, and sustainable development within the real estate development planning process of the corporate sector. So I'm currently involved in development potential analysis and feasibility studies, and mainly when we develop real estate projects, it's my responsibility to ensure that the development plans are well within the planning and designing guidelines. And most importantly, I'm personally involved in the stakeholder engagements. I'm engaging with various stakeholders, including community, local government officials, institutions, to facilitate and dialogue collaboration between my company and the relevant institutions. Also, coming back to the other question Malit raised, what we do as the Young Planners Forum of the Institute of Town Planners Sri Lanka. So what we understood was we were appointed as the executive committee of the Young Planners Forum of the Institute of Town Planners Sri Lanka during the economic crisis. So what we tried to do is we understood in order to develop a recovery pathway, a recovery mechanism to overcome the economic crisis, youngsters has an immense responsibility. We have to actively involve in the policy making process. We have to actively involve in the recovery process of our economic crisis. So we understood truly planning, urban planning has a key role when it comes to this recovery process. So what we are trying to do as the Young Planners Forum is to build awareness about the importance of urban planning, achievable objectives of development planning preparation, the importance of having a well-prepared development plans for our cities. So we are building awareness on those areas, and we are trying to connect the recovery process and the economic crisis recovery process and the urban planning process. What sort of a contribution we can create in order to recover from this economic crisis, how planners can contribute to this economic recovery process. So that is what we are currently working on. We recently launched a project called Rebuilding Sri Lanka Together. So we are currently designing an island-wide workshop series to ensure that we build awareness across the country to enhance the importance of development planning and how we can overcome this economic crisis by following a well-prepared set of development plans for our cities. So Malit, basically that is the summary.
Yes, that's really great that you raised the opportunity for youth. I think that's where we all are at with the Young Planners Network of the Commonwealth Association of Planners, and also with the related other networks in the Commonwealth Youth Network. So we are trying to bridge this opportunity so everybody, the youth especially, have the voice, raising their voice in the policy making. So with this thought, let me move on to Planner Indu. Now, in this important discussion, we now, if I put the thoughts in so far into a process, we learned about conceiving resilience, especially in the policy formulation. It's really important that we understand and embed the concept of resilience in policies, and also understanding the nature recovery network. So what we can learn from nature in policy formulation, and then let the youth bring their voice into the formulation of policies. So Plan Indu, with your experience with the vast variety of projects that you have worked on for improving planning tools round of today's discussion, what are the emerging like methodologies or emerging methods, the tools that you have worked on, or that you believe that is important for improving the planning process? What suggestions that you can raise for improving the planning tools round of today's discussion, especially the best practices and methodologies for resilient urban infrastructure and services, and also the technologies for urban resilience, which we can combine this concept of resilience into urban policies, and also the learnings from nature and providing opportunity to youth, how we can combine this into the existing policy formulation. If we can give some insights, that would be really great.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mali. Very good question. Yeah, at the first I want to tell you and to share with the experience. When you are talking about the urban resilience, actually first we have to think about the social resilience, community resilience. Who are they? Is community, school children, senior citizen, sometimes you. And when you are working as a professional, at the same time, you are in your village or a town. Then when you are improving the urban resilience, and as Camille very nicely explained, and the nature base. And that means the environmental resilience. Talking about the environmental resilience, social resilience, and the disaster resilience. These three things you have to get together, integrate. Yeah. Not only talking about the purely urban, because you can't talk about the urban resilience without talking about the social resilience, disaster resilience, and the economic resilience. Then when you get these three things, as you said, what are the planning tools we are having? First one, actually, because now when you just theoretically sense urban resilience entail the ability to cities to prepare for, respond, and recover from the natural and man-made crises with minimum damage to public safety and health, economy, and security. Then what are the suitable methodology? Strategic planning, not the conventional planning. And first, when you are talking about the strategic planning, and you have to clearly identify how we are going to intervene, what are the strategic intervention. Then through the strategic intervention, and when you think about that, when you assess their aspiration and demand, I think we can go a long way. We can think about other aspects. And when you just talk about the climate change, and we have to do starting with the community hazard mapping, because though we are professionals and we have to collect experience from the community and allow them to work with us at the initial level. After preparing a plan, we can't go and say that, okay, this is the way we plan to your area and the plan your city. And we have to get their very active participation. Youth also the same. And the youth, normally I consider school children as a social agent. And they can change the mindset of the elderly people, and they can start from thinking about the innovative methods. And what are the innovative methods? And they can understand, allow them to understand their environment, subclimatic zones, and the available infrastructure, and the future challenge. The Sahan mentioned very clearly, giving opportunities for the youngest, because they have innovative ideas and they are with the technology, and very easily they can step it into the other world, other part of the world. They can talk about, they can get the lot of experience from their colleagues and their subordinators and in the different type of sources. And therefore is working, allow them to work with the experienced people. Yeah. And especially when you give the opportunity at the same time, and they have to give some kind of directives, where to go, in which way, when, considering our future challenges. And only other thing is, Malik, I would like to highlight, when we are just working in this type of, when you, especially the urban resilient, we have to think about the different scenarios, not adhering into one scenarios. Who knows? According to the climate change, this is an uncertain thing, sea level rise, and the different type of, now if you get the rainfall and the frequency, intensity, these are very, very different from earlier. Therefore, my appeal is giving enough chance to the community, improving social resilience first. Without improving the social resilience, we can't think about the urban resilience. This both go parallel. Yeah. Then if you improve the social resilience actively, they can involve in mapping of hazard areas, identified of the different type of, especially the disaster-prone area, mapping, and having a good dialogue with the other people. And these are the area where I want to highlight. Other thing is, Malita, because you mentioned that the governance and the local governance, that system also you have to understand properly and allow them to the other community to work with the urban governance system. If you take Sri Lanka, because when you examine the governance structure of Sri Lanka, we have the national level, regional level, and the local level. At the same time, and the governance system should be very transparent. And you have to follow the accountability and the rule of law. Then that message given to the normal citizen who engage in planning. I think I gave the enough example for you. And the third round, we'll discuss about the other aspects. Thank you very much for the opportunity again.
Thank you, Planning. I think you really very correctly raised the importance of resilience breaking down into social, environmental, disaster, and economic, and also the strategic planning, which we can embed these resilience aspects into policies, and also the importance of listening to the local communities. And with that, let me talk to Naila now. Naila, now you have lots of experience in technological applications in urban planning. So, what role can the applications of technology, especially into mapping or the surveying, remote sensing aspects, and especially building scenarios, as Plan Indu very correctly raised, how important the application of technology in building scenarios, so then we can compare and understand and conceive the concept of resilience and put forward that into policy formulation. How you can talk about that? How we can improve the methodology of planning with this angle?
Thank you very much, Malud. Allow me to begin from somewhere. I think there are questions which I didn't respond to in my past. I'll take the shortest time possible. Number one, I wanted to express, I would go specifically to resilience, because that is what the discussion today is about. Now, number one, bringing resilience into planning is a fantastic thing. But there are challenges related to resilience. That's where I would begin from. Number one is the hydra-headed nature of resilience, because some people understand it at the sector. Some people understand it as how India has broken it, socio-economic. Some people define it in dimensions of the people, system, places, and institutions. And so when you aggregate resilience at city level, when you look at it holistically, then you run into challenges of conceptualizing resilience and then operationalizing it so that you do the analytical processes that inform prioritization of action and formulating strategies, which can then also inform policy. So that is one challenge that you are likely to experience if you are dealing with this concept of resilience. And number two is about the data. Because sometimes you'd wonder, what data is resilience data and what data is planning data? You see, that is something which planners, young planners, have to at least understand. And then when you understand this, and then the availability of this data, then now is when you can move to the platform where you want to deal with the technology to make these processes innovative and automated. Now, the next thing which I'll go to is to integrate, to look at what opportunities exist to improve resilience building as informed by planning, and then to also build better cities. Number one, I will go to risk-sensitive planning. And of course, planning uses a very important tool and processes like mapping. For example, I will build a case on one of the cities that we were developing strategy on. It's Mombasa City. It is a coastal city, and it is faced by the challenges of sea level rise. So with the remote sensing data, you can go to you can reflect, which in resilience term, we call it the reflective characteristic or nature of resilience. You can reflect on the history of sea level or history of occurrence of events, which can be stresses or they can be shocks. And these opportunities exist in satellite imagery and historical data, which are remote sensing data. And then you can analyze those happenings and the impact from remote sensing perspective. And then slowly you can now use that, the impact, and you can delineate these areas in planning so that you are risk sensitive. If you know an event occurred and the return period, for example, of a flood is likely to be somewhere, you can actually plot those particular impacted area or the areas which are exposed to various hazards and risk. And then progressively you can build that model, and a case example of how that has been done. Somebody can look at the case of China. Is it called let me just get the name right. Qingdao in China. They tend to do spatial modeling of how the flood is likely to impact on the people. And then if these processes are automated, they can be embedded on a software or a technology, which then can be used by various areas or spaces globally, of course, because the digital technology allows us to go in that perspective. And then when you make zoning regulations and planning decisions, then your planning processes are sensitive to the risk factors, more so the natural risks. And then if you compound them to the human risks related to construction and location of infrastructure, then you will be able to be informed by such tools and technological enablers to become, to build a city which is risk sensitive, and your zoning regulations and land use allocation adhere to such planning and land use interventions. Thirdly, I would also speak about looking at resilience in the perspective of the interventions that you put in place. Resilience, from my expertise or technical opinion, it is not an end to itself. You cannot say that this city is now resilient, and that I bring into perspective for the listeners, that because scenario building is very key to resilience building, sometimes you can preempt the possible shocks and stresses that might impact on the city, but you might not exhaust them. So when you develop your action, you must embed yourself on scenario building. And scenario building is to factor in several possibilities and preempted hazards and risks that are likely to impact on a city. I know in Sri Lanka, for example, there are the risks of earthquake, and volcanoes. But then if you come to Kenya, in Africa in particular, the volcanoes are not so much, but we have not experienced the cyclones. But there, it is not a guarantee that these shocks might not impact on our cities. So the scenario building, and then the information that you use to feed into scenario building, all this information and data can be put together within an automated tool, which I would call a scenario building tool. And then you put it in a software, which then every city or every planner can always refer to those data sets and then put them together. If you do an overlay of that, which GIS can do for you, return period of floods, drought and the impact, you look at the earthquake and you look at the return periods and the area impacted, then you make sound decisions on interventions on how to build strong and resilient cities. And again, when you have already undertaken those processes, then you can now inform policy frameworks and even legal frameworks, because in Kenya, the strategy that I have experienced in its preparation for now, one of the challenges is that there is no localized policy framework to guide resilience building. Again, there is no legal framework. So, and then this debate is not settled. So you realize that you go online and adopt tools which have been prepared by various organizations. One of them is Arup and Rockefeller City Resilience Index. And the second one and that is automated, and you can get so many modules and indexes and indices and matrices that you use to measure resilience, and that you can borrow and localize in your context. There is also the City Wrap tool, which you use, the City Strength, and each of these has modules, which are so diverse. And then as young planners, then we can harvest from this and model them within a tool that you can automate to inform resilience planning and building within various spaces. I think for now, that is what I would talk about and end it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Naila. Thank you for that interesting approach of how the technology can be used in building scenarios, especially in the context of conceptualizing resilience, data availability, and also risk-sensitive planning. And it is really important in terms of disaster scenarios. And you correctly, something I need to correct, volcanic and earthquake are not so threatened in Sri Lanka, but into Indonesian context, in Asian context especially, it's really a threat, and then we need the resilience or the scenarios approach in those parts. Yes, it's very interesting. And also when it comes to drought, flooding, the scenarios is something really important that we need to consider in day-to-day planning approaches. So with that, the thought of scenarios. So Camille, what are there any scenario-based approaches in nature-based solutions, in like integrating nature-based solutions into the planning process? How these scenarios can be helpful? Any case studies that you can highlight about that? How scenarios have been really helpful in like providing insights into policies with your experiences?
Okay, I think I'll focus more so on the nature-based solution systems in planning. I think that's really interesting, actually. And what we've talked about here with Naila is the traditional resilience focus on disasters like drought and flooding. But beyond that, resilience can also look at sort of systems. And if I just start off looking at biodiversity, biodiversity is the variety of plant and animal life in a particular habitat or range of habitats. And biodiversity decline is a silent crisis or a silent disaster because we don't realize it's happening, but biodiversity is responsible for maintaining human systems, things like the trees that we use for air quality regulation, the food that we eat that relies on having sufficient insects in the soil, bees for pollination. Biodiversity maintains all of our human systems, or our systems of food and sort of the natural things that we rely on, the ecosystem services. And so it's a silent crisis. And if we define resilience as the ability of a system to respond to stress or shock, then the system of habitats is what maintains biodiversity, and urbanization is what's removing that habitat space. And so in the UK, we've introduced a new policy mechanism called biodiversity net gain. And this applies to all housing development, commercial development, and soon enough it also applies to infrastructure. But essentially the system aims to restore habitats and build resilience into the UK's entire landscape. And the way that we do this is we essentially assess what the baseline of a habitat is before development goes in. And so you'll look at what is on your site before anything gets built. And then the aim is that even though your development will naturally reduce the total space, the total area of natural habitat, you're going to plant some hard standing, you're going to remove habitat. The aim is to improve the quality of habitat, even though the area of habitat is reduced. And so biodiversity net gain focuses on improving quality and condition of habitats. So for example, you might have a field and half it becomes covered in houses. However, the remaining area we aim to improve into things like meadows, woodlands, or even creating wetland environments that improve biodiversity. And so the ambition is that it links into these nature recovery networks that I mentioned earlier. But the ambition is that as development comes in, there'll be a 10% improvement in the quality of habitats, even if the area of them is reduced. So as a whole, as development comes in across the UK, there'll be an improvement overall. So that's one of the systems that we're using in the planning system.
Yes, that's really interesting to hear to Camille. Thank you so much. The quality of habitat and also the silent disasters, yes, that's something we really forget actually, like, because those something we don't actually see, but those are in the background for a long time, and then that ultimately can be impact more than the disasters that we face. So yes, thank you so much for highlighting that, Camille. And then with that, shall we talk, Sahan, about your ideas, especially the strategies for incorporating public engagement and participation in planning tools. So you really highlighted about the opportunities. Yes, we need the opportunities, and also how we can like build these opportunities. Now we from all these discussions we talked about especially the scenario development into governance. So in building these scenarios, how we can incorporate the perceptions of public for different scenarios, if what would work better. So like some of the innovative methods of community involvement in building resilience, especially how youth can be used for this, maybe the surveys, data collection, and also understanding the aspirations of public. If you can quickly mention about some important aspects about that. Yes.
Sure, Malik. So I think the other speakers explained about the technologies that we can incorporate in when we are talking about building strong cities, building resilient cities, and a lot of other aspects. So what I believe is, yes, this infrastructure is important, technology is important, all those things are important, but as I believe, resilience is not just about physical infrastructure, but also about fostering connections and community engagement, like strong social networks, community organizations, and active citizen participation to contribute to the collective resilience of a city. So in order to build, in order to foster social connections, in order to involve community organizations, in order to involve the general public in the resilient city development procedure, it is important to have a set of strategies. So when it comes to the strategies for incorporating public engagement and participation in planning tools, so mainly it is highly important that we always maintain a diverse outreach. So a diverse outreach in the sense, traditional methods like community meetings should be complemented with online platforms, social media campaigns, mobile apps, and targeted outreach to underrepresented communities. So it is really, really important that we always ensure that whenever we outreach, we always maintain the diversity demographically, geographically, also in terms of medias. So we also we have to reach out people through conservative medias, as well as we have to focus more on modern media as well, modern media and social media as well. And also at the same time, we always talk about community engagement when it comes to planning as well. But one of the key areas that we are missing is we develop plans, we suggest strategies, we develop strategies, then we are trying to get the public opinion. But what I suggest is, if we can engage public from the beginning of the planning preparation process, early as possible, so then before we develop strategies, we know what they are looking for. We do have an idea about their experiences. So one of the other strategies is using visualization as much as possible. So with visuals, people can understand proposed changes, the visualized impacts, and they can provide their feedbacks more effectively when we visualize our solutions. That is one of the key strategies that I would like to propose. And also, if we can organize collaborative workshops, these are conventional methods, design charrettes where community members and planners can work together to develop design solutions and strategies. And also, it is highly important to involve public in the planning process continuously. We have to regularly assess and improve public engagement methods based on their feedback and evaluation. Also, few of the other strategies that I would like to talk about is if we can focus on capacity building of the community, if we can provide resources and train to enable meaningful participation of the general public, that is also one of the key areas. And if we can implement things like participatory mapping, engage community members in mapping exercises to identify and prioritize areas that are vulnerable to hazards or areas with existing resilience assets, I think it is that is also very important. Also, the other thing is we have to ensure the information that we are sharing, the strategies that we are sharing are accessible throughout the planning process to the general public. We do have websites, we do have online platforms. It's really important to ensure that information and engagement materials are accessible to diverse populations. So it's highly important. So Sri Lanka is a multicultural country, and we have countries like India where we see hundreds and thousands of different diversities. So we have to make sure all this information are accessible, and we have to make sure that we translate it into different languages as much as possible, because we are talking about diversified cities. So, and also finally, when it comes to strategies, it's really important to focus on evaluation and feedback. We have to establish mechanisms to provide feedback to the public on how their input has influenced the planning process and outcomes. So one of the most important things about public participation is we have to ensure that the general public, they should feel their opinion is valued. They should feel their input is valued. So that is also really important. So finally, when it comes to the methods that we can incorporate, innovative methods for community involvement in resilient planning. So one of the innovative methods that we can incorporate is gamification and simulation. So as the previous speaker mentioned, we can develop certain scenarios. If we can develop games based on those scenarios, if we can develop interactive games and simulations that allow community members to experience the challenges and trade-offs involved in resilience planning, then it will generate a much more effective input. So because we give them an opportunity to experience the scenarios in a gamified arena. So, and also one of the most important aspect is we also have to focus on storytelling and community narratives. So there's this famous saying, if you're familiar with the famous TV series Game of Thrones, in the final episode, the Tyrion Lannister is saying, what unites people? Armies, gold, flags? No, stories. Because we hear stories about how people build Venice. So these stories inspire us to do great things. And if we can encourage community members to share their personal stories and narratives related to resilience, these stories can provide valuable insights into the community's experiences. So that is also really important because yes, the youngsters have innovative approaches. The youngsters know how to deal with the technology, but it's highly important that we learn how the previous generations have been dealing with these disasters, these these disasters. And also, it's highly important to use digital platforms and applications. We have to make sure that we develop user-friendly digital platforms or mobile apps that enable community members to access information, provide feedback, and collaborate on resilient planning. So as an example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the National Youth Services Council of Sri Lanka and the National Youth Parliament developed an application. So during the crisis, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the blood bank of Sri Lanka faced a major issue. They were unable to fulfill their blood requirement. So what we did was we developed an application where people got the opportunity to get real-time notifications on the blood requirements. And that application allowed people to identify the blood requirements and donate blood whenever it is required. So likewise, we always have to focus on these things as well. So finally, it's highly important that we promote youth engagement, prioritize the engagements of young people in resilient planning, as the key is really, really important when it comes to strategies.
Thank you, San. Lots of interesting approaches where we can combine all the insights that we have learned from all the speakers. So I think we are almost towards the end of the session today, but we have one small and one really important aspect, which is the call to action. So let me make it a rapid session. So let me take 1 minute of time of all the 4 distinguished speakers and get a take-home message. What recommendations that you would suggest for the call to action? So if yes, Naila, you have your hand raised, and also let me invite you to take 1 minute of your time, if it is possible, to give us some recommendations for the call to action.
Thank you very much, Maluk. I wanted just to give an addition, just one, and then I'll give my take-home message for this particular discussion. Number one is about before we have the innovative solution to building resilience, we also need to emphasize the fact that we need to have strong baseline or evidence base that informs you in whichever scenario you want to build for resilience strategy development or action planning. It is important because when you have real data, which is the baseline, then proper automation or innovation then can come in. That is very key. And so my take-home message, which I would want to share, is that resilience building or building resilience in cities, for planners, we can only achieve it when we mainstream the resilience angle into the traditional planning approaches. And why am I saying this? Is because there is a slight variation in the approach to resilience, understanding resilience, and preparing development plans. I'll give this example. Mostly planning are anchored on bridging service gap. If you don't have water, you want to provide water. If you don't have land for institution, you want to allocate land for that particular institution. But in the resilience perspective, you look at it from the definition that Hindu gave, ability to adapt, withstand, and transform. So you see, this continuum requires more input, that you do not only need to provide the water, but you need to provide a spare capacity, which when there is an interruption, then you are able to meet the need despite that interruption. So that is the message that I am sending home, that when we need to mainstream the resilience indicators and indices in our data components that inform planning processes. Thank you.
Thank you, Naila. That's a very important message. Conceive resilience in our planning. That's really important. So with that, Plan Indu, what's your recommendation for the policymakers about this conceiving resilience? So 1 minute of your time.
Yeah. And my key message is evidence-based research. And the second one, and the dissemination of information on time. Then the consultation of all the sectors, not limiting into professional, and just like the previous speakers explained, cross-section of the society, all kind of people, and the school children, the farmers, chamber of commerce, whatever you call, and all the sectors. And dissemination of information you have to do on time. That is the continuous awareness is also very, very important. And the last is not least automation.
Yes.
Okay, these are the 5 things I want to recommend. If you want to build a resilient cities, at the strong cities, and you have to pay your special attention for these 5 aspects.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Planning. I think yes, that's really important. 5 aspects again that we can include in our documentation of the final briefing. So, Camille, over to you. What's your take-home message for us?
I think I would return back to the point I made at the start, and that's addressing the nature society dualism and the idea that we are separate from the system that we exist in. We are not. We are part of that system. And so if we see ourselves as part of it, we can work with solutions that have been established, like I said, for millions of years in the natural environment. So using nature-based solutions means understanding how natural systems work and aligning with that rather than trying to break away from it. So breaking the dualism and working as one system.
Excellent take-home message. Thank you, Camille. So yes, Sahan, yes, 1 minute of your time to conclude everything and then provide your key message for all of us.
So my key message is, in order to build strong, resilient cities, one of the key things I want to mention is invest our time and money in innovation and technology to overcome these challenges. And as youngsters, the young people are often the forefront of technological advancements, and we can leverage the innovation to develop sustainable solutions. So it is highly important that we invest time and money in innovation and technology. And also, the young generation, we should always try to participate in the decision-making process. And also, we should play the role of an advocate, and we should always focus on advocacy and activism when it comes to overcoming these challenges. So that is my take-home message.
Thank you very much, Sahan. Thank you very much for all of your time. And also, if there are any questions from the participants, please raise your hand. We can take 1 minute just to have sort of discussion. And if there are any more questions, please feel free to reach us over the email address in the CAP5PN website so that we can continue the discussion into the further time. And also, this workshop is linked to the Cities by Citizens program, which is officially due to launch in next month. And then thereafter, all these workshops will be linked to this one Cities by Citizens program, which is ultimately the message from this workshop as well, where we need to incorporate citizens and then let the citizens plan cities according to their aspirations. So let me invite with that thought Will Steele, our organizing member of the Cities by Citizens program, just to give you a quick info about this program and how we can use the knowledge of this workshop in improving your program. Yes, Will.
Thank you very much, Malith. Hi all, good to see you. So the CAP Young Planners Steering Group, in collaboration with the Commonwealth Youth for Sustainable Urbanization Steering Group, and that's a multidisciplinary built environment based Commonwealth Youth Group, are starting to work on a new initiative called Cities by Citizens. And as Malith has described, it ties into the outcomes from this event and the purpose of this event quite well. It's been interesting hearing your excellent comments just now. So the purpose of Cities by Citizens is to achieve cities which are proactively planned to meet the needs of all through inclusive, meaningful and effective public participation in the planning process, as well as informed and transparent political decision making on strategy and developments in urban areas. So, one of the problems which I suppose we have is that there's additional complexity as a result of rapid urbanisation to achieving people-centred, inclusive cities within within this context. It stretches out cities, and of course, to achieve sustainable development, so the Sustainable Development Goals have to have economic, social, and environmental solutions. So this involves getting a whole load of different stakeholders on board and engaging with them effectively. So what we're doing during the second half of this year, we'll be holding events, and the launch event for Cities by Citizens is on the 20th of July, and I'll post an Eventbrite link into the chat shortly. So during the second half of this year, we're looking to deliver events monthly, so monthly webinars to generate different perspectives from different parts of the world on and case studies as well on the challenges and solutions for achieving Cities by Citizens principles. We'll also be carrying out research, and that can tie into a separate project under CYSU, which is the Commonwealth Youth Challenge, which is looking to get young people's views and stories, which has been described in the discussion there, on their experiences in their local areas and how they could improve their local areas and help to contribute to the sustainable energy transition. So there's other Commonwealth initiatives which we can link into to bolster the research, but also whilst sending out surveys to members on things including what young people need from sustainable urbanisation. So there's quite a lot to go at during the second half of the year, hoping to attend key conferences such as COP28 as well. And we'd be very keen to collaborate with you and for any ideas on things which we could incorporate into the programme. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Will. That's excellent. So I think you might have collected lots of information from this workshop. Personally, me, I have learned a lot, and then I'm obviously that all our participants might have learned a lot from this first workshop, especially about conceiving resilience into your planning approaches, and also the final thought from planning into the evidence-based research, the really important aspect that you raised about that, and also the nature society dualism, which we have to actually address, that we need to blend into nature, and then let our planning not become something strange for the ecosystem. That's really important. And also about the narratives. That's what unites people. Thank you, Sahan, for that thought as well. And I really appreciate and all of in terms of Commonwealth Association of Planners, the Young Planners Network. I thank you all for our four distinguished speakers for your time and for your interesting insights for the improvement of this workshop. And all your thoughts, I have taken notes down, and then we will document this into a brief so that there will be something we can share, a tangible output of this workshop, rather than just putting thoughts into air. We should document them and then distribute to our youngsters so that they can use them and get inspired from your experiences. So that's what really this is about. And this is not the end of this workshop. This is the start of the series of workshops. So we will compile every knowledge, everything together to something really impactful for the youth of Commonwealth. So thank you so much. And for the participants here today, thank you so much for joining, for your time, and also this will be available in the social media platforms of CAP. And those who successfully complete the series of workshops will be recognized with a certificate under Commonwealth Association of Planners, Young Planners Network. And also, once again, to our distinguished speakers, thank you so much. And it's an honor and great privilege to have you all with us today. Thank you so much.
Wish you a resilient future.
Thank you, Planning. Thank you, Kamil. Thank you, Naila and Sahan. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.